Greetings to everyone on my channel. Sit back, turn up the volume, and listen to another story about a bad attitude towards her husband. I will ask you to subscribe and like. It's not difficult for you, but it's nice for me. I can't call myself anything else. This story happened a few months ago, and I still can't find a place for myself. I worry and twitch, either from nerves or from memories. My name is Tatiana. I am 33 years old, married, have 2 sons, and I have a wonderful, caring husband. My eldest son is several years old, and every year we go to St. Petersburg for medical rehabilitation courses, as he has some health problems. In October, we had a wonderful, long-awaited baby. I will not mention the names of the children for personal reasons. My husband was really looking forward to the appearance of our baby and supported me in every possible way, trying to be as attentive as possible. In the last 6 months before the birth, our relationship changed a little due to my condition, and after the birth I started to recover, and my husband showed great patience and understanding. I didn't get enough sleep, I was tired with the baby, and I plunged headlong into family worries. In March, the whole family went to St. Petersburg, where we rented an apartment near the city center. Every morning, my husband went to the clinic with his eldest son, and I stayed at home with the youngest. On the very first evening, my husband offered to have the baby examined by local doctors, and I agreed. The next day, I called a taxi. The driver turned out to be a young, very polite and friendly guy about 28 years old. He helped me with a child safety seat and offered to make a discount if we drive without the mediation of the dispatcher, which turned out to be quite convenient. My husband took the child to the clinic, and I stayed in the car and paid for the trip on the way back. Sergey, that was the driver's name, offered his services the next day. His attention and care pleasantly surprised me, and we agreed that he would pick me up and take me home. I didn't tell my husband about it, because I didn't think it was important. Sergey began to help me not only with trips to the clinic, but also offered help with shopping at the supermarket. He was always very attentive, helping with the baby and groceries. It seemed to me that such attentive and well-mannered people are rare. One day he helped bring groceries into the apartment, and I offered him a cup of coffee, since he spent a lot of time driving. We had a quiet conversation, and I thanked him for his help. Thus, our meetings lasted for several days, always within the framework of polite communication. I started breathing a little harder, and he noticed it. Sergey was very attentive and careful in his actions. He tried to keep the conversation calm and respectful. In recent months, I've completely forgotten what it's like to receive such attentions from someone. My student years were full of various experiments, and I was not shy about my actions. But after marriage, I was always faithful to my husband. Our relationship was based on trust and mutual respect. Sergey was very courteous and courteous. Our conversation was casual, and I was pleased to communicate with him. He tried to be supportive when I needed it most. We continued to discuss our common interests and share experiences, but everything remained within the framework of friendly communication. When he left, I was left alone with myself, reflecting on what had happened. I felt good that there was a person who understood and supported me. However, I felt a little embarrassed that I had allowed myself such close communication with a stranger. The next day, Sergey called, asking if he needed to come. I was a little embarrassed, but I still said that I had not changed my plans and I would wait for him. That day, our communication remained at the level of friendly assistance. He helped me with trips to the clinic and then with shopping. Everything was calm and polite. Sergey was still attentive and courteous, but now there was no tension between us. We continued to communicate, and I understood that there were no bad intentions in his actions. When we finished everything, I thanked him for his help and said goodbye, feeling that it was just a little friendly support, which is so important in difficult moments. Sergey clearly liked my behavior. We looked into each other's eyes, and he whispered softly, "You're a smart girl. No one has ever done this to me before. I adore you." He hugged me tenderly, and our conversation became even more relaxed. He gently helped me to sit on the sofa and continued to talk to me with a slight smile. Everything was calm and natural, as if there were no barriers between us. Our communication continued, and I was pleased to be with him. We shared our thoughts, discussed various topics, and enjoyed each other's company. Time passed, and we began to discuss our future communication, agreeing to meet again. Sergey remained polite and tactful, supporting me in difficult moments. After the meeting, I thought about what had happened for a long time. It seemed to me that there was nothing strange about it, just two people who found each other's support and understanding. I understood that our communication had changed, but it was more of a friendly interaction without unnecessary expectations and obligations. After getting out of the shower, he began to apologize, trying to show that he was ashamed of his behavior. Then he went to the kitchen and made tea, which he brought into the room. I tried again to realize and understand what was happening to me, why I was doing the way I was doing, and why I was allowing myself so much. Before leaving, he apologized for a long time for what had happened, saying that I was beautiful and that he had never met such an amazing woman. He said that he would like to see you again, and made it clear that he was ready to be attentive and caring. A few days passed, and we continued to communicate. He was polite and tactful, and our meetings became regular. We talked about everything that bothered us, and I felt like I could trust him. When the time of our stay in St. Petersburg was coming to an end, Sergei offered to invite me to his home. He was in a good mood, welcomed us cordially, helped with things, and showed us his cozy apartment. She was small, but very neat, without unnecessary things. There were already fruits, cake, and sweets on the table, pleasant signs of his hospitality. During the tea party, I asked for some time to take care of the child. Sergei understandingly left the room so that I could calmly feed the baby and put him to bed. When I returned to the kitchen, our conversation continued. We discussed our plans for the future, and he shared his thoughts and hopes. It was a simple but pleasant conversation, without tension and without any expectations. Then we moved into the living room, where he continued to tell interesting stories, and I listened to him with enthusiasm. It was a calm and warm evening, without unnecessary emotions or hints. Igor joined them, and they both began to interact with me, ignoring my protests. I started crying, but they didn't care. Sergei spoke rude words, breathed heavily, and his behavior became more and more offensive. I asked them to stop, but they just kept laughing and didn't stop. I was shocked, because I did not expect such behavior, especially from Sergei. After it was over, Sergei introduced Igor to me as his friend and said that they wanted to have fun before parting. Igor came up to me, started saying unpleasant things, and demanded that his requests be fulfilled. I was indignant and tried to refuse, but in response I received rude remarks and threats. I realized that it was pointless to resist, and I tried to avoid further conflicts. Igor behaved in an extremely inappropriate way, showing complete disrespect for me. Sergei watched what was happening and recorded what was happening on his phone, which further humiliated me. It all took a long time, and I was under a lot of stress and pain, feeling depressed. When everything was over, Sergei said that I had to go, as I needed to take care of the child. I silently packed my things and quickly headed to the shower to wash off the traces of humiliation. When I was ready to leave, Sergei offered to call a taxi and help me, but I refused his help, feeling that I needed to leave this place as soon as possible. I took the child and, without waiting for Sergei, ran out of the apartment. I felt free, but I was also overcome with guilt and shame for everything that had happened. Tears were pouring out of my eyes, and the baby, sensing my condition, was scared and tense. Sergei tried to catch up with me, but I didn't stop. Soon a taxi arrived, and I quickly got into the car, trying to get away from this place as quickly as possible. The driver noticed my condition and asked if everything was okay, but I could only briefly reply that everything was fine. I cried all the way home, trying to hide my tears, while the driver looked at me through the mirror. When I finally arrived home, fortunately, my husband was not there, and I was able to calm down a little and come to my senses. I don't know how to live now,